Let's kick out a podcast.
Let's do it. It's Tuesday. It's February 16th, the year 2021. Welcome aboard. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, and we are episode 452.
I like how you look at me when you say that.
I always look at you with like this, like,
Is that right?
I'm like, is that correct? I need some affirmation here ASAP because I'm usually, sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. But we're always here twice a week, traditionally Mondays and Thursdays, but sometimes like this past week or this week, we have a holiday on Monday. My kid's out of school. We're at home. Half of you are, snowed under and iced under and can't do anything, can't go anywhere, out of power. We're like, you know what? We'll take an extra day and deliver this on a Tuesday. Yeah. We appreciate you. We appreciate you tuning in. We got nothing here in Chattanooga. It's been blistery cold for us. I know it's cold for a lot of you people, but it is cold for us here. We got a little bit of flurries coming in right now. It's a dreary day, cloudy. I just need some sunshine, to be honest. I don't care how cold it is. I just need some sunshine in my life. And we hope this podcast today can provide you a little bit of sunshine in your life.
I agree with you, man. I've actually been all about the cold. I kind of like it.
I like the cold, too. It makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
You told me that back in the day.
Yeah, it's flurrying now, and I kind of feel like...
I don't know. That's like...
dusting.
Yeah, it's like Jesus has dandruff, something like that. It's like just coming down from the ether.
It really makes me want to run in the snow. I don't know if this really counts, but
this doesn't count. I mean, for us, it counts as snow. I mean, because Nashville, my mom sent me a picture. Nashville has like 4 inches. She they're like 2. They get. They've gotten snow like more. I think more this year than I've ever when I lived there. And she's like, we got more snow today. And I'm like, we have nothing. Which, to be honest with you, Hayden was out of school Saturday and Sunday. He was at home yesterday. I was like, thank God, because we got an email yesterday that the Y was opening late. And I was like, please don't tell me, dude. I mean, I love my kid, but I was like, you know what? He needs a school. He needs to go back and needs to be regular scheduled programming. They're like, the gym's opening late at 7, but daycare is on schedule. If you got to come late, you got to come late. I was like, oh, he'll be there. First kid through the front door.
So he was off yesterday because of President's Day?
Because of President's Day,
okay.
He was off. And so I actually think I think they do like a combo, like in-service for like teachers or whatever. I think that's actually pretty common. A lot of athletes that we work with mentioned that they were off, I think like even like Friday and Monday. And then obviously a lot of people are out of school. Depending on where you live. Man. I know, it's like, can I back? He's in daycare. He's like, whatever. Just put him back and do his thing. But again, we appreciate you tuning in. If it's your first time listening, welcome. We know we have a lot of opportunities and there are a lot of podcasts out there to listen to, but we are a triathlon-related podcast. We talk about a whole lot of triathlon, and we talk about a whole lot of life. We'll dig deep oftentimes and do swim, bike, and run training. We'll do race recaps. We'll do race previews. We've had on about 7 guests on the 452 podcast, but
good ones.
Yeah, they are good ones. Go back. You can go through 1 through 452, where you can just pick and choose. Mike does a really awesome job of outlining each podcast with the topics and specifics that we go through. So do that, look through. But for the most part, Mike and I just sit back as best friends, coaches, and athletes and have a conversation. What we're both going through personally in life, what we're going through in training, oftentimes what our athletes are going through as well. We'll even pop into our Facebook group. You can pop in there, Crushing Iron Group, answer one simple question, and we will let you in. A lot of awesome people in there, and we'll use them as kind of get the vibe from the community and see what they're going through, and we'll use that to kind of drive the topic of the day. But that's it. We have no sponsors. We have no ads. We have one agenda. That's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Hang on, let me just start my Garmin here.
Oh my God! Whoa! Stop! Whoa! First off,
I was wondering if you're gonna notice,
dude, where the hook is at.
I'm weaning off.
You're weaning off. Is it because I gave you a hard time last week on the silver sneakers?
No, but it's been in my head. That's
like
part of it. I mean, it's always in the back of my mind. I kind of like them, but I'm giving up.
It's okay to like them.
I'm giving up a couple inches.
You're giving up a lot of stack height. I mean, like if you look at them quick enough, they look like those gray New Balances that you see old people wear, like the really bright white ones. No, not those. Like the Hokas. Sometimes they got such a high stack height.
I know. It's just.
I like those. I like the Ghosts. They look mean. You look vicious today. I don't know if you feel vicious, but you look vicious. Black kicks.
It's a little intimidating, huh?
They are. I was gonna say they are a little intimidating.
I kind of like them.
They look good on you, man.
Thank you. Yeah, they feel good too. I think I've been afraid to like walk away from that plantar fasciitis because that's the Hokas really did a number with those. I felt like they, especially the speed goats here, are soft enough, and they just kind of gave me the confidence to start running again without the beating. And but in the back of my mind, I've always been like, man, I can't, get into this soft zone too long. I'm not saying I won't use them. But I'm kind of back and I got to mix it up a little. Do you mix up shoes?
I 100%.
Yeah, see, I think it's a good thing. Right?
I have 2 pair. Well, I have 2 different pair of road running, and I have actually 2 different pair of trail running shoes. I had the Hoka Speed Goats, and I promise you guys, this will not turn into like a shoe review podcast. That's the last thing you want to hear Mike and I do. But I have for trail shoes, I have a pair of Speed Goats that are very, very popular trail shoe, and then also have a pair of Brooks that I've actually become to love. The Speed Goats I found just a little bit too heavy for me. There's clunky, I felt. And I've been running a lot in the Brooks one. I haven't even worn my Speed Goats in like 2 months, so I can't really say I'm alternating. But then on the road, I have a pair of Sauconys. I believe they're called the Freedoms, and Nicole Winger will correct me because she sold me both pair. And then I have my trusted pair of Newtons that'll never go away. So I kind of alternate between those. And I like to alternate. I think I know it makes the shoes last longer, but I just kind of like the different kind of a feel. I guess I feel like it makes me get lazy if I only have like one style of shoe that I wear. Sometimes it makes me feel lazy, especially if they're not that different. But I think a lot of people have a couple pairs of shoes. I know it's very popular to have like 17 pair of run shoes. That's not me. I have 2 pair, and I run them in the ground, then I get a new pair.
Mm. I get that lazy part, but I also think that there's something to be said for, just a different vibe, a different feel. Like you probably subtly use different muscles in different shoes or something like that, just based on how they're built. And I don't see how that can be bad. You know what I mean? I think we kind of all get into that groove, that comfort groove of triathlon. And it's like, it's sort of like why we suggest trail running or why we like mountain biking. It's, it pushes you out of that aero position on the trainer. It's like it sort of brings in your whole body into effect. And it's like we had people in last week, and like when we put them on the curved treadmill, it's just something different. And I've been doing a lot of treadmill work, and I keep looking at that thing like, man, I just...
It's a great warm-up tool. Hop in there.
I know. I keep thinking I need to warm up on that and kind of like set my stride a little bit and like mentally and physically get in a groove there, and then just kind of try and keep that.
And if you fall, I'm not here, so it's like I'm not gonna rat you out and bring it up on a podcast. I mean, I got security cameras in here. You don't know about something to put on a blooper reel.
If I fall on that thing, I'll probably bleed out.
Don't say that too. It's already I already don't want to come in and like see you floating on your stomach in those pool.
Dude, I thought about that.
You did?
Well, I have a
let's not go morbid here, but
yeah, I don't know if we should even go into this.
That's not
okay, because I had a weird thought. Because I was swimming with the sharks last night.
Oh my god.
In the darkness.
In your dream?
No, I went in the pool in the dark.
How was that?
It was interesting.
Did you have some panic? Like, because you brought this up to me when we talked about Catalina last week, and you were like, what, you could get in this pool, you could turn the lights off, you could swim in the dark, and I could poke you with the brooms. I could poke you and see if you'd freak out.
Out of the Inspector.
Yeah. So you tested it out last night.
When
you tested
least
out the theory.
Expect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. I was just freaking about like, did I lock the door? Is somebody gonna come in and just like throw in a blender or something like that?
I mean, what are they going to throw in? Who's
a toaster?
A toaster. What's wrong? You're spending too much time alone, man. We got to get you out more.
No, it's just a childhood thing. Like I can remember one movie or something where they did that.
So did you finish your swim?
I didn't go very far.
How long did you make it?
It wasn't because of that. It was because of my shoulder.
Oh, it's not because you're afraid of the random stranger throwing a toaster in this pool?
Yeah, I made it about 15 minutes.
And then called it a day?
Called it a day. But I had run first. So I was like...
yeah, okay.
But it's the shoulder. I forgot. I don't want to even get into it. I'm not getting into it, but I have mouse shoulder, I think. I do.
From using the Apple over the Mac?
Yeah, just the mouse. Because on Sunday I was feeling pretty good, and then I did a bunch of Training Peaks stuff, and I was click, copy, paste, type, and I got done. I'm like, damn, my shoulder's killing me, man.
It's a thing.
I know. I looked it up, and I was kind of joking. I looked it up, and they're like, yeah, it's a thing.
So you have runner's mouse shoulder.
Runner's mouse shoulder.
Cool. Interesting. That's a nice little combo. Yeah, I know that my shoulders, and this is strictly a posture thing. I think a lot of people actually suffer from this, that sit in front of a computer all day and don't have like a standing desk or just have like generally bad posture. Because I know that I 100% have bad posture, and my chest and my shoulders have gotten so tight from sitting in front of my laptop so much, doing Training Peaks all day, that if I don't like sit up and work through them, then I get like incredibly tight. And I've been doing some exercise in the foam roller, and it's kind of amazing how like the lack of like my range of motion, how limited it's become and how much it takes, like how long it takes me to stretch through things and to feel better. But yeah, we'll get off our mouse running shoulder shoe rant.
Okay.
With what? Go ahead.
No, but I think that stuff's important in a way, because I think we take it for granted. But like, you know, I'm 15 years older than you, or at least. And I mean, like, imagine.
Let's not overshoot my age here.
Imagine doing that same motion for another 15 years and how you're going to feel. So it's like, I've been aware of that for many, many years, those types of things. And, you know, we should probably all do little things that seem like they're irrelevant, but just keep doing them. Just, you know, it's sort of like you never notice if you're doing little things, but if you neglect them, you really start to notice.
If I could invest in anything, I'd invest in hand surgery right now.
Hand surgery?
Yeah, because I think as much as people like are on their like laptops and computers and have their phones in their hand, I think there's going to be like chronic hand issues in like the very near future that people are going to be doing like procedures for.
Yeah, I mean, you get shooting pains from texting.
You have text hand, and yeah. Let's get into the podcast though, because we're already about 10 minutes in and we've already probably lost 85% of you, but we're still here. We're going to talk about triathlon. Well, we'll probably talk about a lot of life today. Do you have a topic for us?
No, I just had it. That was it.
We're going to go down the rabbit hole of mouth shoulder.
I was hoping that would just blow up.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it blew up and it's done. No, I thought it was, you know, we're doing a coaches workshop here this weekend. We have a bunch of athletes and current coaches and hopeful, you know, future coaches coming in. We have some hopping on Zoom, and I was kind of going through my notes of preparation, and like the very first day that we have it, we're not even going to talk about you know, swim, bike, run specific training. We're not going to jump the gun and talk about periodization and training stress score and training peaks, and we're going to talk about life and like the mental and emotional aspect of training and connecting with people and working with, because you work with people, right? You work with their athletic ability, and they are athletes. And we always consider the people we work with athletes. Everyone is an athlete, no matter how fast or how slow or what kind of ability you think you have. You're all athletes. We all have, and we all are athletes. We do things that are athletic, but it is the emotional and mental aspect of that I've always found the hardest, and I think the most challenging. And I shared a lot of this in my weekly email that went out yesterday. You know, that you have these ebbs and flows. And I think it's been more pronounced like this last year, just because I think communication has actually been increased with most athletes because of what I think everyone's kind of gone through. But I lost a friend of mine this last week to an overdose, and it hit me. I mean, I'll be honest, like I've lost quite a few friends the last 7 or 8 years. And I think, I don't feel bad saying this, but you know, some hit you harder than others, you know, and that's just kind of true with life and with the friends that you have. And I think the circumstances, and I think it also comes with like where you currently are with your life and what you're going through. And this one, it just hit me particularly hard. The circumstances were all too familiar. The whole thing just kind of really, really hit me hard. And I honestly wasn't expecting it. And I think that was probably the biggest thing, is like you hear it and you're like, what? It just kind of left me in disbelief, but also just feeling, I don't know, I felt broken for some reason. And I think, and then we had another athlete that I work with that put his wife on hospice on Monday, and then she ended up passing away on Saturday. And it was just like this combination of grief and sadness and frustration and all these kind of things I think are normal, right? I think it's a normal thing for people to deal with. And I was kind of navigating through how I was feeling about it, and working with so many people that I've had lost this year, which is the same every year. You know, people go through, life is hard. I think for a lot of people, life has seemed more difficult this last year for whatever reason, but life is hard. Life is always hard. There's always difficult things that are happening. There's always obstacles. There's always events that happen that are not comfortable and that are traumatic, and life's just hard. And the last, you know, I think week or two, it's felt particularly hard as a coach and as an athlete myself, and as just a person on this planet to navigate those things. And it's kind of, I went through my week, and we came back from run camp, and I didn't, the first 3 days, I didn't do jack. I didn't do anything. We did a lot. You know how our camps are with us. Like we're we're participating in them. We do a lot of mileage as we did, and I ran hard on that Saturday, and then do anything on Sunday. And it's also, I really don't know if I'm an extrovert or an introvert. I'm kind of a between-vert. I think I just kind of go between, but being on, for 3 or 4 days, and that's a lot, dude. You know what I mean? That's a lot of socializing for me, and I know it's a lot of socializing for you. And it fills my cup, but at the same time, it's draining. And so had some work to catch up on, and then Wednesday night I heard the news about my buddy Ben, and then Thursday and Friday I just felt kind of emotionally and mentally I had nothing. And I talk to athletes about this all the time. I think it's important for everyone to know that, I think we beat ourselves up a lot about, why am I not motivated, But you have to have energy to feel motivated. It's not like something that you should be hard on yourself about. You have to have energy to be motivated. You have to have sleep. You have to eat right. You have to feel good. Because if you feel exhausted and tired and drained, you're not going to be motivated. And I think that's okay for people to understand. And then Saturday, finally, I made a trip over here to the Endless Pool and got in. Because I kind of just had it. Like, I got the news from one of our athletes, and I packed my bag within like 5 minutes, and I was like, I'm getting out. I'm going to the pool. I'm getting in the water. I'm going to do something, as I was just tired of like not doing something. I just needed a release, and then I ended up hitting the trail on Sunday, and I kind of wrote this in my emails. I just kind of felt like, I don't know, I've always, not always, but in the last, as long as I've done endurance sports and since I've gravitated towards those 20 years, I've always kind of looked to swimming and biking and running as kind of a way to kind of put myself back together, which I think is very counterintuitive to the way a lot of people look at workouts as simply tearing yourself down, right? Of beating yourself up and, crushing yourself to come back tomorrow and beat yesterday and no pain, no gain. And I think a lot of athletes and a lot of people can relate to the fact of doing something for yourself as a way of putting yourself back together. And I didn't feel, necessarily broken, but I just felt a little bit lost and a little bit at loss for, I'm a control guy. I like to be in control. It's something we discussed, previously on the previous podcast about flying. That's like my biggest reason I hate flying. I'm not in control. I have no idea what's going on. And I just kind of was fed up with just like loss in general and having, because it's not just the loss thing. It's just about the knowledge and the feeling and understanding that there's so many people out there that you love, that you care about, and you have conversations with that are striving to do these things, that are just suffering through whatever. They're suffering through depression. They're suffering through anxiety. They're suffering through loss of parents, of friends, of everything, because that's life, right? Life is hard. And I felt totally out of control. Like as a coach, like your initial, and your initial instinct is to help people. Like that's your job is to help people, right? And to help get them through things. And I felt totally out of control. So I went and I hit Lookout Mountain. And to be totally honest and transparent, my leg has been bothering me since trail camp. I think I came back from trail camp and I was a little bit too tight from sitting all day long, my IT bands. And so after the first mile and a half, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to turn around. But I was like, you know what? Frankly, today, I just don't give a shit, and I'm just going to keep running, which I don't recommend. That's not me, giving the green light, but to be totally honest, because we always are, I probably should turn around after like a mile and a half. I was like, you know what? I need this more mentally and emotionally today than I need to worry about anything physically. So I ran up the mountain, ended up finding like a really cool new path they've opened up on the Guild Trail, the Guild Hardy Trail. So it's basically, I didn't even hit the dirt. I just went straight uphill for 5 miles on the gravel, and then turned around, came on the downhill, was passing and kind of going through. I turned my Pandora on, my old school that we've been listening to in here, my Pearl Jam Pandora radio, and then ended up hitting this little point to where I was hitting Ruby Falls, and anyway, had this like moment with these kids yelling out. And I just kind of even though my leg was like not feeling the ground, I was like, you know what, F it. I'm tired of because I think we spend a lot of our time as athletes and as people just really, really restraining ourselves, like our feelings and our thoughts, because we feel like we have to be so very, very careful and calculated, because
safe, man.
We're like, what's going to happen next? I don't want to ruin. It's like, you don't even know. Most of our worries in life never happen, right? It's like me. It's like the same thing as my fear of flying, really, like I'm going to get out, like I could probably fly 100 times a year and be totally fine. But it's that one fear that takes over and prevents me from probably doing things that I probably could do. And I was just, I just needed to let loose. It's almost like I needed to do something that I knew I shouldn't do. Like my leg didn't feel very good. I'm going downhill. And I was like, the song came on that Ben and I had listened to, a Silver Chair song. And I started to pick up again. My first thought to myself was, don't do that. Like you don't feel it. It's going to really hurt. Then then I remember thinking, I don't give a fuck, and just went after it and just ran hard. And I didn't run hard the whole time because frankly, I wasn't able to last but more than a mile because my leg started to tighten up a little bit, but it was just enough to kind of release and feel like I could control something for a minute. And how we use endurance sport, because I felt, while my leg has bothered me a lot since then, if I need to admit it, emotionally and mentally, I felt so much better since that run than I had the whole week before that. I had felt, and I think a lot of us, like we use running as therapy, as swimming as therapy, as cycling as therapy. Like we use the sport as therapy to get through and navigate life and to deal with how hard it is. And I think it's that, even kind of going back to, we more so focused on the pain aspect of it in the previous podcast. I think we talked about our relationship to pain and what we're going through personally, and how sometimes our best workouts are often, preceded by our most painful experiences, right? Like we use like our pain in life to kind of give us energy to have like a painful workout. But for me, and I think a lot of us have used this, is like, it's also a way for us to grieve, right? So to process things and to go through things. And a lot of times it'll leave us on the couch, it'll leave us in the bed, it'll leave us feeling unmotivated to not do anything. But a lot of times it pushes us out the door to think, I just need to get out and work through things. And I even saw like David Roach, who's a very famous trail runner coach. And I haven't read it, but I know he just put out an article that was like the science or the therapy behind crying while running and the strength that it gives you. And you and I have both shared in the past, where we've ran and cried before. And I think it's an interesting dynamic and a topic to discuss in terms of how we deal with our emotions. And it's a much better, I think it's one of the healthiest. It's like your therapy, and I just think it's an interesting topic because I know a lot of people have struggle with how to deal with grief and pain and even just depression and anxiety and just the hard day, the day in and day out that we have of life that can be so hard sometimes, and how we choose to spend that time in hopefully a healthy way.
I mean, let's face it, man. We're turning into robots sometimes. I think about, like human evolution and, the survival instinct and the things that people had to go through to survive, which means, hunting for, and gathering for 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day. I mean, it was sort of like this. I mean, that's how we grew up. We had that energy to do that, and that's survival instinct. But now we sit in front of computers and get mouse shoulders and all these kind of stupid things, and it's sort of like, I better not do that mouse anymore. Do I have an easier way? Can I like voice to text, or instead of like diving into what you just talked about how it's like, oh, you feel that pain. Well, go into that pain sometimes, and that's where I get frustrated with myself, is because I've had certain injuries over the last year or so, and I know that babying and pampering myself isn't probably the right thing to do, but it's hard to go through, you have to do it smartly, obviously, you always got to throw out the disclaimer, be smart, don't talk to your doctor, right. Whatever. But like, be your own doctor and just, play it smart and whatever. But, I was thinking cause like with this cold weather and stuff, I've been reading that Wim Hof book, the Iceman, that I've been into for such a long time. He had a new book out, and I guess around Christmas, but he's all about exposure to the elements, and how that is sort of like trains all your little muscles and nerve endings to fire and be more efficient and create better circulation and vascular health and all these sorts of things. But no, we sit in front of it. And this whole last year has been basically, no, stay inside, stay away from everybody, stay away from any energy and all that kind of stuff. And we sit there and we wonder why, we're in our heads, and all we do is think.
The most dangerous place to be
100%
is in our
right.
heads. I know for me, it's like the place that I want to get out of the most, because like your thoughts take you down these negative, depressing, fearful routes.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
You sit there and literally like that. It's so funny because like, I kind of, joke about my shoulder or whatever, but it never really hurts that much during the day. But then when I lay down at bed and I'm like thinking about everything, it just starts aching. And I'm like, what is this? What is that? So like your idea of, I love what you said, putting yourself back together, because how sport can do that, how we can do that. I was saying to one of my athletes this morning, he said he just got done with a super easy ride. It felt like the easiest ride of his life. And I was like, how cool is that, really? Right. Like, if you can really remember back to like when you used to ride a bike for fun and you just kind of would go out through the neighborhood and ride around the bike. I mean, it's like, that's a healing process to me. And it feels like, we always have to push. I was watching like an old clip from an old Joe Rogan podcast. He had this like Eastern strength coach, on there, like from, I don't know, Soviet Union or something. I don't know. But he was an MMA guy or whatever. And he said, if you're working out and you're sore every day, you're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, wow, man, that is so powerful. And Rogan was like, what? That's like how my whole life has been. That's just how you are. But he's like, no, you keep getting stronger and you don't deal with like soreness is the worst way, because you kind of snowballs into worse and worse problems, right? So, but what you're saying about that run and like kind of plowing ahead and going for it and stuff like that, I that just reminded me of how I used to mountain bike. It was like you just turn that stuff off and just be right there in that moment and just let things fly. And there's no better healing to me than to just be able to do that, to be in the moment and just let your body work, because it goes back to that sort of like how we used to exist and live in nature, and getting into nature and experiencing that stuff that's like connective, and that's the thing with Run Camp and being around people and stuff like that. And this last year's just kind of like stripped all that out of our lives and made it even harder, So it's like you have to pour yourself into, we can't be afraid, man, anymore. I mean, it's just like we got to quit being afraid of everything, because it's just turning us in and tightening us up, and we're getting like more and more injuries because we can't let go.
I think in triathletes have always been this way, in terms of like, we have a big race coming up. We have a big event coming up. We stay away from playing a pickup basketball game, or going to play intramural softball, or going skiing, or we find ourselves, and I used to be this way. I would find myself like skipping out on these experiences because like, but I got this event coming up. Like something could happen. Like I could injure myself and I could hurt myself. I don't want to go do this because, what if I sprain my ankle? What if I, just like, first of all, like, what if you do? Like, what's the, I think we have, to an extent, and I know this, again, it's true for myself, is like, this thing I'm trying to get back is like, what can we do for ourselves with endurance sports and with our training and with our racing and with what we want to do for performance and our expectations? Like, we think and are obsessed so much about what's going to happen with our racing 8 months down the road, 10 months down the road, 12 months down the road, and the fear that it might not happen, but also holding on to the hope that it does happen, right? And our expectations and the pressure we put upon ourselves, but also the excitement that we get from training for a race. And we don't want to be removed from that process, right? Because it's galvanizing, it's energizing, it's motivating. Think, but I've got this race, and it's like I get out the door and I'm so motivated. Like, but if I don't have it, I'm just taken away, or if I injure myself, then what do I have, right? And so, and I respect that, and I agree with that to a certain extent. But at the same point, my thought process, and again, like, I don't think this is an apples to apples comparison with every single athlete, but I've signed up for a race in about a month from now, in the same race that absolutely ate my lunch last June, River Gorge 20 miler. That's here in Chattanooga that I wanted to go back and kind of get a little bit of revenge on, because like I said before, it ate my lunch. And I want to go back out, and I'm in pretty good run shape. And so my thought on that run was like, don't do something stupid. Don't do something to mess up your training cycle or the process you're in, or injure yourself to where you have to take, significant amount of time off. But then I thought of, what can I do for myself right now? Right. And yeah, you could argue like, there's a good happy medium, and there usually always is. But in that moment, I just thought to myself, I just want to feel better right now. Like I don't care. I want to feel better right now. And what feels better to me right now is just letting go and just releasing, and just letting my body run as hard as it can and release. Because I think it's interesting. Like, I think a lot of athletes associate with this is like the faster you go, or the longer you go, and like you go through this kind of feeling of like you kind of like become vulnerable. Like you let your guard down and like your body becomes in charge, and you stop trying to prevent yourself from crying or prevent yourself from feeling these things or prevent whatever thoughts or emotions that you might have that are associated with whatever difficult time you're going through, because we're all so scared for showing, public emotion or crying or doing like these things like, oh, well, you're not going to feel tough or you can't handle things. And it's like, but that you're supposed to. It's like, you're supposed to, like, crying is good. Like, crying is good for you. Working through your emotions is a good thing. We have become like so obsessed with not having feelings and emotions and projecting that we're always fine. Everything is perfect. And, we're handling things well. And, I just can't, things couldn't be going any better. And in reality, it's like, dude, and that's why I try to be as transparent as I possibly can with our athletes when I share things like that. It's like, dude, we all struggle. Like, we all go through things. We all have periods of like, and they're unpredictable, right? Because life is unpredictable and you're not in control. So you can go off and like, hey, man, I'm in some really, really good run shape. And probably one of my best feeling runs ever at run camp. And then like 3 days later, I have no motivation to run. I'm going through, a hard, it's like, it's just hard to navigate. But in that moment, I just thought to myself, I just want to feel better right now. Like, I just want to release this, and then whatever happens, happens. And if I have to take a week off of running or whatever, then I'll take a week off of running. But going back to the Zoom call that we had last week, and then the podcast we did about pain, it was like, if I have a choice to feel mental and emotional relief from pain or grief or whatever it is versus physical pain, I'm choosing the mental emotional all day long. Like, I would much rather, coming from at least my personal experience from going through, as a person who drank and was in such a really hard time, going through such a difficult time, basically in some level of pain every single day for God knows how long. That mental and emotional pain was far more than any physical pain I've ever endured for a long period of time. And so it was almost this like self-preservation of like, I have this ability, right, to which I think sometimes we also forget. Like, you talked about the guy who was like, yeah, I went out for a bike ride. It was the easiest ride ever. And I think the longer we do this, we take for granted the extra tool that we have to deal with life, which is training, which is endurance sports. And I found myself, but I've got this opportunity to run hard and to feel these things when a lot of people don't, because it had nothing to do with the speed. It had to do with my effort and ability to go out and run up a mountain and run back down and to do these things and to get up on a Sunday and have the ability to do that and the endurance and the strength to do it. And because I can't imagine waking up and feeling like I have nothing to do but to just work through it on my own. And that's obviously a good thing to do. But to have that extra tool as an outlet to get out and exercise and to do something and to express yourself in a positive way versus, even though I had it back then, my way to express it was like, I'll just go sit at the bar and drink, right? That's what I can do to, relieve the pain, right now. But it was a positive, right? And while it wasn't probably the most, the smartest thing to do in terms of, my training for this week, it was what I felt like I needed. And that's, I think, a very important aspect and a topic for every athlete to understand, because we get so scared that we're going to lose our race, right? And I think that's a lot of people's struggle right now with COVID and with, race cancellations and the unknown, because we haven't really had races pop up like, consecutively to give you that kind of like confidence that people they need it because they need that. They need that thing out there to train for and to be motivated for. But at the end of the day, it's like, you want to push yourself to be able to deal with things and to deal with life and to deal with the hard things that we have to go through on a day in and day out basis. And I just think it's important every single day, whether it's to train or not to train, whether it's to do a hard workout and take the easy workout, or if you have an easy workout schedule, then to go hard, and I don't say do it every day, but take control, right, of your own. And that's something you and I really strive to get across to our athletes, is that this is a partnership. This isn't a dictatorship. Like, if you feel this way, then I'm here to support that, right? And I'll adjust things the next day, but do what you need to do to process whatever, or to feel like you just need to survive today. If it's cutting your run 30 minutes short, then cut it 30 minutes short. If it's going 30 minutes over because you got to run with a buddy and talk through things, then run with a buddy and talk through things. Like, you're never going to get scolded, repetitively for dealing with life through endurance training. Like, there are much worse things to do, but the point is as with training, is to feel better, right? Is to give ourselves this positive jolt in our lives that makes us feel happy and makes us feel healthy and makes us feel positive and helps us navigate through things. It shouldn't be a workout that makes you feel worse about yourself. It shouldn't be a workout that trashes your body. It should be a workout that gives you strength, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally.
Oh, man. I like what you said about training as a extra tool to dealing with life instead of a mandatory obligation to, justify yourself today. And, and also I was thinking about, the idea of like you have a race coming up, so you're being real cautious and making sure you don't play basketball or do anything like that. And, but really, I love this new this concept that fear should be your compass. Like if you're afraid of something, it's a good idea. It's probably a good idea to go into it. You know what I mean? Like whatever that may be, like if you're afraid, I was thinking back to, and I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast are probably going to be first time Ironman at some point. And I always keep that close to my vest because I remember that feeling. And honestly, when I signed up for when I signed up for Ironman Wisconsin, like that year, there was nothing more important to me than that race. Right. So as I got closer, of course, it was like, oh boy, don't do this. Don't do, like it was just really this like building a bubble or a cocoon around me. And like, but the reality is when I think about that, I'm like, why was that race so important? Like, why was that the thing? And I know that I probably, severed some relationships and things along the way, just because I was so concerned about that. I know that basically I was at work every day thinking about the race and, not that, I don't know, that was maybe a good thing, but like the idea of putting so much weight on something like that is really like I just felt like I need to look at why was that the thing? What was the real end goal that I was shooting for there? And, it was sort of like, I didn't know what else to do. And I knew that I needed to almost justify myself by finishing and doing well at Ironman Wisconsin myself. That was like my, template for life for a while. And I think that can get a little scary. And when you look at the workouts, and I just think that I love what you said about like, do what needs to be done right now to make yourself feel better. Right. It's like, what is that right now? It could be anything, it's like,
You had a loss.
I am at a loss, man.
No, I think it changes every day for every person. I think it also, it's also very, very dependent on. I think that's why athletes have such a hard time maybe navigating that feeling or thought process of doing what's best for them today, because we are obsessed with the future and the races that you're training for and the training for the next week and the faster I'm going to get. And obviously you need to treat yourself with respect and do things that are smart. And, and I'm not obviously advocating going out there and doing something stupid and hurting yourself, but at the same time, I'm advocating for self-care, right? And I know that's a hard balance. Well, you don't want to hurt yourself physically, but you want to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally. And I think that's kind of when it comes to something that you kind of have to really think through. But at the core of it, like that's what we are doing, right? And I think everyone gets in this sport for a different reason. And I think kind of going back to the pain podcast, is that usually people who pick up Ironman, like it's not their level of pain. It's this event that's hopefully going to take the place of something in their life that they don't like, right? And it's usually like in the amount of pressure and the amount of hoopla and the amount of focus that we put on that event is usually like equal to the one we're trying to forget or we're trying to overcome. Like it's like you see an athlete like, oh, I didn't do well at this one Ironman, so you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do 2, right? It's like we never, I couldn't do this 12-hour training, so I'm gonna do 20, right? That's what we do. Like we take, instead of being like, you know what, or maybe I'll just set myself up for more success and do a 70.3 or a 10-hour week, right? And scale back, and we always choose more because we always feel like if we have something that's very negative, then we must overcompensate with what we feel like is going to be positive or exciting or make us happy.
I think it's like proportional to the void sometimes.
It's 100%. You put it exactly how it is. Like it's proportionate. It's like it's equal to, it's whatever you want to say. It's like it is equal or greater than the level of the hole that you have in your life, the void that you have, the despair, the anxiety, the depression, the loss, the grief. It's never like, you rarely ever hear like an athlete, I just really had this like epiphany in this really hard time. Like, so I think I'm going to go run a 1 miler. You know, like no one ever says it. Like, I think I'm going to do a double Ironman. Like it's always, and usually it's like it is. It reciprocates. I was there. I spent the last year of my drinking days in that exact life, which was like, okay, I'm in this extraordinary amount of pain. How many things can I do that I know can be equal to that pain? And even still, they weren't even anywhere close. I was still like not able to quench the amount of pain or silent the amount of pain I had mentally and emotionally then. But I just kept trying, instead of being like, oh, well, maybe I can do what I should do, which is basically not work out for 90 days and go to treatment and then get myself right, which is what I did, which was all a mental and emotional work. It was no physical work. It was all mental and emotional work. But now when you look at, which was the most exhausting, like it was the most exhausting thing I've ever done. Like every single day I'd go to bed. That's what kind of started me on my early bedtime trainings. I went to bed 100% exhausted. Like there is nothing more exhausting than working on yourself mentally, emotionally, and thinking and like digging deep and going through like emotional things all day, every day for 90 days. You're spent. Was so much more exhausting and tiring than like training for a 5 or 6 hour day or training for an Ironman. It was just exhausting. And I remember the first week I was there, I was like, I'm going to keep up a workout regime. I'm going to do this and that. And after 3 or 4 days, I was like, man, screw that. I got nothing left. Like I'm ready to go to bed because I got to do this again tomorrow. But I think again, like when we think about our place in endurance sports or maybe better off the place in endurance sports and training has in our life. And I think that's ultimately like the point, that I'm trying to get across is that what we have is a tool, right? Our ability to do these things we often take for granted because we're so obsessed again with the future and what we hope our body now can do for us in 8 months or in 2 years or how much better we can get or that we're not satisfied with where we are, who we are right now as an endurance athlete and that we want more PRs and we want faster times. But at the same time, I think it's very important to understand and to appreciate and be grateful for what you have created, which is a tool that a lot of people would pay for, right? It's to have an ability to work through life in a manner that's also going to not just benefit you mentally and emotionally, but going out and getting in a run or cycling with friends or hopping in the pool and getting that quiet time and to work through your thoughts when you have no distractions. Most people don't have that, right? They're paralyzed to do nothing, or because they don't have the ability to do nothing. So they don't have the fitness, or the physical ability to do these things and to work through life in a way that we can. Doesn't mean that we're special. It just means that we've worked hard to get to where we are. And I think that's ultimately more people's fear than not, right? It's not that the race gets taken away, but it's their tool gets taken away to deal with life. It's not that we can't, not 100%. That's 100% my fear. It's not that I won't be able to race again. It's what if I can't train again? I think we like to say that it's racing, but it's more so like, and I've seen it this last year with people who haven't been able to get to the pool or haven't been able to run or ride as much as they would. It's like, I don't want my I don't want my tool. Don't take my tool. Like it's my tool to deal with life. It's my tool to deal with obstacles, with the hardships, and also celebrate the victories, the great parts of life that are wonderful and satisfying and invigorating. Don't take that away from me because I've worked so hard to get it, and I want to keep it, and I want to be taken away because I know that I need it. I might not appreciate it every day. I might not use it every day. Some days I might just let it sit there and rust a little bit in the shed, but good God, do I need it? And while I think a lot of times we get swept up on, I don't want to miss the race day or I want to make sure I play it safe, I think a lot of athletes would admit also, like I said, it's more about I want to keep my tool because it makes you feel alive and it keeps you safe in a lot of ways and it makes you happy and it helps you deal with the sad days. And it's something that I think we should feel very, very grateful to have, especially on those days where we like to nitpick our performance and question why we're doing something or be over dramatic with, I'm just not getting any faster when you've had one bad workout, or I can't seem to, raise my power up when we've had one bad cycle. It's like, well, aren't you just grateful to have what you have, right? And to not be so swept up in the metrics, but to do why people did this in the first place wasn't to go out and break an FTP score, FTP, record, or it wasn't to PR a 5K. It was to go out and run. It was to do what you did when you were kids, which is to go knock on your buddy's door and be like, hey dude, can we go ride bikes? And you go ride bikes, like, because it felt good and it was fun. Right, it was the first thing you thought of. And same thing, you want to go swim? Let's go swim today. It wasn't because it was all so metrified and so obsessed with the data and the numbers that we use to judge ourselves. But I think it's an important, especially as we're nearing, because this is the point where most people in the winter tend to kind of reach their breaking point with trainer rides and treadmill runs and cold swims. It's like, I just need some sunshine. Like, where's my vitamin D? I need it right now. I'm feeling it. It's like, I need some sunshine. I don't care if it's 10 degrees, just give me some freaking sunshine. Like, we need that. And I think it's important to get out. Remember that, go out and get like you said, the cold weather kind of makes you feel alive. It can, and going back to that guy's book, it was like, it makes you feel more things. And that's a good thing, right? I think we've become so obsessed with feeling nothing or little to no. Like we talked about that in some of the athletes we had come for the hub weekend. When they do the fist drill, I love it because it takes away a sensory. It takes away your hand. It takes away your ability to feel, because the first, basically it's like it removes it from your body. And now the first thing you feel is your form. You no longer have that it takes away that sensory. And now you just go for your form, which makes you feel it more. Then you give that person their hands back, and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I have 4 arms. Like, they're just swimming so much better with a more feel for it. Feeling is good, and I think that's a huge part of what endurance sports does, is to get us to feel whatever it is that we need to feel that day.
Yeah, and what you're talking about when you were in treatment and the emotional weight that had on you, and you're like, I'm going to keep my workouts going and do it. You were just too tired for that, right? So, like, there's a lot of times when I think as triathletes, there's stuff going on in our lives where we feel tired and we're trying to work out and it's just not really coming together. So there's like, how do we solve that, emotional baggage that's that's weighing us down and find that energy to actually work out? And that's why it's like, sometimes you just, because you rarely hear it, right? It's like, I just went for a 20-minute run, and that really changed my vibe, right? Because it's an easy, attainable thing that kind of gets your blood pumping. It's that physiology change and all that sort of thing. And that's why I'm so into this cold thing now with the, like, try and take a cold shower and not feel better, at the end of it, or more awake, I should say, or more energized. Like, take a normal shower, and at the end, just spend a minute under the cold water and just relax. And it's like you want to do the hard stuff, or like I was saying, the compass, it's fear is your compass. And yesterday it was sleeting. I was just hearing I was going up upstairs yesterday, and it started sleeting, and it was freezing, and I know everybody's cold and everything. And you and I did. I went out on my balcony in shorts, just shorts and flip flops, and I sat there in the sleet for like 100 slow breaths.
Oh Jesus!
And meditated.
No thanks.
I mean, I know, but it was like, I love the concept of trying to like just relax in that. I mean, and I actually wasn't that cold. I mean, it was kind of windy, and every once in a while it would come up, and I was like, man, that's kind of amazing that I could do that. So I think about the potential of where that could lead, like, and the ability to sort of relax in that, like to get to a point where, you jump in the cold water and it doesn't really just take your breath away, because you can control your system a little bit better. So that's why I'm just so intrigued by that kind of thing, because it's sort of like and that guy in his book, he talks about like, people like to meditate, and his thing is, it's like this type of thing can, cut through years of meditation, because it really kind of trains your body to really control the mind-body connection a little bit better. And it happens, like more frequently or faster or whatever. And those types of things are just so amazing to me to think about. It's like we have so much potential. We have shut off parts of our brain because we don't need that survival mechanism or whatever it may be. And literally part of our brains are just kind of going dormant because we don't ever force them into those places. And that's just it. I like the idea of like, reaching that potential. And I think if it's still in us, and I think endurance sports does that for us too. I mean, it's the difference between people who just sit around all day and people actually get out and do stuff. It's just like there's always those little connections. So taking things a different way and different.
I love what you said about the sitting outside, you know, with the doing like the 100 breaths, like, and you know, we can probably wrap it up with this, is that I think a lot of what we deal with too is like our anticipation of pain. Mm-hmm. We expect it to be cold. We expect it to be unbearable. And then we show ourselves that actually if we go into it with a different mindset of accepting it, then it becomes more bearable, right? It becomes something we can actually sustain and do for a while. Like it was yesterday at home, I was playing catch with Hayden. We were bouncing the ball. I was trying to make it more difficult for him to with that ball right next to you on the table, like a hard ball. And he missed it one time and it popped him in the face. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "You did that on purpose." I was like, "No, I didn't." He's always, you know, it's like, he's like, "You cheated." And I was like, "No, I didn't. Like you just missed it. Like I didn't hit you in the face on purpose. You didn't miss on purpose. It was just an accident." And so the next 2 times he was like, obviously he was scared to catch. He did a really good job of like grasping it and catching. And I was like, dude, you don't need to be scared. It's not going to hit you every time, right? You just have to keep doing what you're doing and try to catch it. And if it happens, it happens, but it's not going to happen. Just because it happened once doesn't mean it's going to happen every time. And I think that's so much of what we feel in life is like we have this mental anticipation because of a bad experience or a bad session or a bad, you know, obstacle that we go through in life, that much of our pain and anxiety and fear is just stemmed from our head and our brain of like what we expected. Therefore your body's immediately going to be like, oh yeah, like, you know, what a coincidence. I'm in pain. You're like, well, yeah, no, exactly. What a coincidence. Like when if you had looked at it in a different manner, instead of like, this is an experience I want to accept and look at it in a more positive light. Like you said, going on your balcony, you weren't like, oh, I'm going to freeze to death. It was just like, I'm going to accept this and be with it and be present and then see what happens. And you're probably able to tolerate it. You know, it's like if you look up and you're like, oh, today's going to be such a bad day. You know what? It is. It's going to be a bad day because you just spoken into it. You're going to now look at everything as a reason to have it, make it into a bad day instead of being, you know what? Today's going to be a good day. And then you spend the rest of your day thinking, told you, today's a good day. And if something bad happens, you either gloss it over and you're like, know what? Today's a good day. It's so much about where we are mentally and emotionally just as much as where we are physically. Powercast, baby. 52 minutes. We got a turf guy coming. We got to get this show on the road. Yeah. As always, I know it wasn't a very deep swim, bike, run related podcast. I'll get you one of those, maybe Thursday. But it's life. You know, it's what we're going through. It's what I know many of you are going through because I hear, you know, our athletes are, you know, the average Joe, the average Jill, doing the deal. So we hope you got something from this podcast. As always, we appreciate you tuning in and listening. Swing by our website, C26Triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community, as well as our online gear store. We have lots of hats, visors, some sweatshirts. Go back in there. You know, we don't ask you to pay for the podcast, but you can support us by buying our gear. It's great quality, good design. So purchase that, and we'll get those out to you. You can also, we still have our club membership, which is open. The Mike's heading that up. And you can click on the coaching tab, scroll down 3. Click on club membership, learn more about that. Mike has, I think, a few spots left for custom coaching. If you want to reach out to him directly, he is at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have any questions for me directly, you can always reach out to me as well at C26Coach@gmail.com.
All right. And if you've got any, polar plunges coming up, and I'll see if I can try and make them.
That's it.
Let me know. crushingiron@gmail.com.
Boxers only.
All right, buddy. Let's go check out our turf.